paid during the shutdown.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Kane. I'm the Vice Chair of the Economic Development Committee. I want to welcome you this evening. We have a regular meeting tonight, plus we have a rather good agenda. Ned here and Mike, you get it, will be leading the discussion. If you have any questions, I'd appreciate it if you wait to the end, and then we can answer at that time. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Great. Ned, why don't we introduce the commercial industrial
Thank you
tax
very much,
exemption.
Steve. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to start off with an introduction. So, in the beginning part, this is about the commercial and industrial tax exemption known as RSA 72.81, presented by the Loudoun Economic Development Committee. So what is the RSA 7281? In New Hampshire, there are only a few tax relief options permitted by state law that a community can use. One tool is known as the Commercial and Industrial Construction Exemption, as outlined in RSA 72.81 and 82. The Commercial Industrial Exemption allows the governing body, which is the Board of Selectmen in our town, to provide tax relief for a business to build, rebuild, modernize, or enlarge within the municipality. Relief is granted on new municipal and local school property taxes for a period of up to 5 years. In some areas, up to 10 for new construction only. In short, the exemption is a temporary tax relief incentive that Loudoun could use for commercial and industrial construction, delaying the tax impact for a period of time. Why should Loudoun consider commercial industrial exemption? One, the exemption is one of a handful of tax incentives that Loudoun can use to support new commercial industrial development in town. This can encourage businesses to locate or expand in Loudoun. The delay in tax impacts is only temporary, as outlined in like a 5-year or 10-year period. After a period of up to 5 years, the full tax revenue will be collected, which will expand the non-residential tax base. The exemption helps promote a business-friendly community. When businesses see that a community is willing to grant such relief, it shows that it wants businesses in town. This helps to encourage a business to choose Loudoun. Some sample exemptions and public benefit definitions. So sample years and percentages. So in a 5-year program, year 1 would be a 50% of increased assessed value. So this is meaning a property that is undeveloped, being developed, undeveloped as whatever the base is for the assessment, and then being developed at 50% to help out. Then year 2, it goes down to 40% of increased assessed value. Year 3, 30%. Year 4, 20%. Year 5, 10%. And then after that, it is assessed at the full value. Sample public benefit definition. For the purpose of this exemption, in order to satisfy the public benefit requirements, a minimum of one of the following must be provided. Enhanced economic growth and increase the town's tax base, creation of needed services or facilities not currently available in town, redevelop and revitalize commercial or industrial areas, prevent or eliminate blight, or retain local jobs, increase local job base, and or provide diversity in the job base. So where could Loudoun use the exemption? So right now we have commercial industrial is zoned along Route 106, pretty much the length of the 106 in town. And how does Loudoun start the process to grant exemptions? New Hampshire RSA 7281 and 82 outline the process as the following. One, Loudoun Town Meeting needs to adopt the provisions for commercial uses, industrial uses, or both. Two, the exemptions would either apply townwide or to a specific portion of town, which would be determined by town meeting. Three, the public benefit that each property must demonstrate shall also be defined by town meeting. And four, town meeting shall also specify, one, the maximum amount of time the exemption could be in place, and two, the maximum percentage allowed for the exception. And then finally, the Loudoun Board of Selectmen would approve each request on a case-by-case basis and set the percentage of relief and duration of time, which is not to exceed the maximum specified by town meeting. And that's what we have for our proposal this evening. Mike, anything to say?
I would just add that each application is considered by the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen decides whether they're going to approve it or not. So, you know, it is well within the rights of the Board of Selectmen, if you don't meet the criteria laid out, that they don't have to approve that exemption. So, you know, that's just like we have with the 79E process as well for the village area. It's a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, and if I may, this ties in well with planning and zoning as far as, you know, case-by-case basis. It's not a blanket. So we would have the selectmen, the town would have direct input and control over what would pass and what would not. So thank you very much for your time.
Open it up for questions, Ned?
Oh, you gonna record that? Any questions from the audience?
I have one question. Is it strictly 106, just 106, or could it be up on Pleasant Street Extension where the greenhouses are? Would they be, if they wanted to add on to their section, is that possible or no?
Funny you should ask. So, one of the things that the committee has, you know, talked about is that this really should not be limited to just to 106. Right now, 106 is the only viable commercial industrial that we have, you know, for some time. But as those properties become developed and build out, then it would be wise to start looking at other properties. One of the things, and I don't think I'm overstepping here, is that we have, you know, sand and gravel pits that at some point are going to meet their, you know, life termination in terms of what they can get out of it. And then part of that is that they have to reclaim that, and then it gets into a state of redevelopment. And what happens with that redevelopment? You know, one of the things is that Loudoun is in an excellent location, highway system-wise, within this part of the state, as far as accessing commercial development. And, you know, there's a thing such that is called transload, and so we could possibly look into that, which could be very useful. It's like similar to like with Benevento. Okay, they're kind of a transload where they have stuff brought in, the material, and then they ship it out. So stuff like that, you know, we have Penny Patu, they make stuff, they ship it out. And there would be a direct benefit to the tax base without the additional costs for fire, police, medical, that sort of thing.
And if I may, I think the conversation we had about, you know, proposing that it be in the commercial industrial zone really reflects just work, you know, getting through the process too. And, you know, because you can either go town-wide, full town, or identify those areas. So I think we were kind of taking a conservative route for the first year as a committee to say, okay, well, this would be an exemption for the commercial industrial zone. I think if there was a clamor for other areas in town, perhaps, but I think that was kind of the idea. This is just what we would propose for year one.
So year one, you go, hypothetically, you approve the 106 belt line, and then you want to add on to that. You go to the next town meeting and add on
Correct.
to that?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, the thing is, we want to build on success. I mean, that's the whole idea, is that if we can really make 106 work the way it could work, okay, then that would create the kind of like the promotions that, wow, Loudon is really doing something. Because, I mean, for 30-plus years, it's been relatively dormant, with the exception of a couple of handful things. And I believe, Aroma Joe's, Dollar General, and SR1, being, and the American Air Conditioning, the Crane place over there. So, kind of building and filling that out makes logical sense, so that we can increase our tax base without increasing our costs. And then from there, that basically, should be able to kind of help us to look at other things that could open up.
If I could add, and one of the biggest things that we started with when we started looking at all these things was the vacant lots that we have along Route 106 that we're getting pennies. When you look at the big scheme of things, you're getting very little tax dollar for those properties. But if we bring this in, even with 50%, you're going to be probably at 6,000% of what you would have been getting for a vacant lot. Even at the 50%, and it's for a 5-year period. We're bringing in a lot of revenue into the town, even in their first year. And again, it depends on how big the location is, and all those things. But that's what really spurred, at least myself, into really looking at bringing this in. The town of Allenstown has it, and Salem, right? Those two communities.
Hillsborough has it.
Hillsborough has it now. But Salem did that, and I'm sure if you've been down 28 in Salem, there's a lot of businesses that have gone in there for that particular reason, because it is that tax break to get built in, move forward.
Yeah.
They hire a lot more people.
Yeah.
In the areas.
There aren't a lot of tools in New Hampshire that the town can use. And the idea too that when people are making their first cut at say they're looking at towns in New Hampshire, they're looking at okay, let's look at the website. What's the town doing? Is the town using the tools that are out there to give us a break on our property tax? It's not a huge tool, but it's one of them.
I want to just take off on what Jeff was saying. And I was thinking about this before, the meeting, that, words can kind of get lost in terms of like, well, how does this work? When you think about percentages, so as what Jeff was saying, so if we have a property, let's say it's being assessed at $100, we're getting $100. And we get a new business comes in that wants to develop it. And then that new assessment could be 1,000. But in the meantime, according to this program, we're getting $500. Well, that's still $400 more than we were getting on that. And this is where the real benefit and the beauty is that there's no loss. And that's the thing I think people should, walk away from this, is that it's all gain. There's no booby prizes or anything like that. So that, the first year it's $500, the second year it's $600, the third year it's $700, the $800, $900, full value. And so in the meantime, as opposed to the $100, we keep increasing it, and that's where I think the benefits and the real positivity for our town, as other towns have probably done it, really exist.
And it's not just for new businesses coming to town, correct? It's for people who want to add on to the footprint of what they have.
And that's one of the things that talks about earlier in this thing, is that it's about expanding, so that this is, where we have, let me find this here. Okay, so to build, to rebuild, to modernize, or enlarge within the municipality. So the levers are there. And that's where, the Board of Selectmen have, the discretion as to, this could really bring in X, Y, Z. I think the next thing that's also important to be mindful of is that when it starts talking about, well, what's the public benefit? So, creation of needed services or facilities not currently available in town. So this is expanding or new. Redevelop and revitalize commercial and industrial areas. Again, that's, we just went over that. Prevent or eliminate blight. That's important, Retain local jobs. Increase local job base. Provide diversity of job base. It's got some possibilities.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, okay. Well, Tom, do you have anything you want to add?
Sure. I would just say we've had businesses approach us looking for this exact process. Some businesses have moved forward anyways. To Ned's point, building upon success, I think, is a key statement. When we developed the economic revitalization zones, there was very little forward movement from a commercial standpoint in town. When we adopted the ERZs, we've since built out almost every one of those ERZs fully. So the tools work, and we've had businesses approach us looking for this, so we know there's interest out there. One of the roadblocks for many businesses when they've come in and spoke with us is we don't have a lot of infrastructure within Loudoun. And getting some relief through this process is sometimes what they need to get pushed over that hurdle when they're looking at, water, sewer, fire suppression needs, public utility, whether it be natural gas or electricity upgrades to serve their business. So this gives them a little means that they may not have in another community to seriously consider coming here and overcome those few hurdles that we do have in front of us.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah. Steve?
I've been listening to all of this, being a resident here and part of this committee for a number of years. I'm glad to hear that there's a movement and a desire to increase the business basis in the town. The town has, as I said, the town has actually a very limited way of developing this. And using a tool like this offers us some very clear advantages, and one which I strongly favor and one which I would hope that we would not put aside or not take advantage of.
Anything else, Chuck?
No, I'm all good, thanks.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for showing up and for joining us.